This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Big 4-hour program lined up tonight. Plenty of talk today about the Thursday night game. It's a big one. Paul Charchian, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, with player props for tonight and over the weekend coming up in 30 minutes. Best bets in soccer, Steve Wiss, an hour from right now, and a little bit later on, we'll hit bowl games and first-round playoff action in college football with Brad Powers. What do you think the parlay of Michael Lombardi leaving the network because Bill Belichick was going to take a college football job paid before the start of this football season?
Leicester City odds.
Yeah.
5,000 to 1.
How about that?
And Kitchens on the staff
has been retained.
Yes. It's the craziest college season ever. But if you go back to January, if someone said Indiana would make the playoff, Boise and Arizona State would have byes, Saban would be the funniest guy on game day, Ohio, it's now a felony to plant a flag, Belichick goes to North Carolina, Florida State, after going undefeated, goes 2-10.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable, and it's. But now it makes sense when you go back and look, because I talked to Lombardi in August, and he said, "Hey, I can't come on. We were still doing mornings. Can't come on the normal time. I have a Monday meeting now, weekly with Belichick."
That's right.
Now we know what it was about. It's in Wickersham. There's a good article up on ESPN.com today on how it's McDaniels and Patricia and Lombardi, and it was Belichick every week on these Zoom calls and figuring out what job do we want. How do we put this together? Let's study film. Let's talk ball. And they thought, hey, this Bears job is awesome.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work out. And let's look at this.
Now, how about that? They settled on that. Of all the jobs that were available, that would be the one. And that's what I kind of hypothesized the other day. Of all the jobs that are going to be open, there's only one, to me, that would make sense for Bill Belichick in the NFL. And that's what they would go over every single game, by the way, in the NFL. Every single game. And in that story on ESPN.com, it's pretty well documented that Belichick just had enough with the NFL.
Yes.
And he couldn't believe that he was only up for 1 out of the 7 jobs last year, had multiple interviews, and he didn't even make the top 3 on anybody's list in Atlanta. So he's like, here's the middle finger. Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. I'm going to go to college.
Yep. As it was said in the article, voted off the island by the owners. Disgusted by what the NFL has become. A FU to the league. 1 of 7, only 1 team showed interest. Also bothered by the fact that Fontenot in the interview was talking about the right way to do the draft approach. And, he's talking to a guy who's been in the Super Bowl 12 times. And that bothered him. So, but between that and Kraft bad-mouthing him time and time again to other owners behind his back, he's just like this. As he said today, and it was a pretty good press conference, 50 minutes, took questions, showed that he has the sweater when his dad was an assistant, kept it after all these years. The chancellor wouldn't even take a question, which was bizarre. But as Bill said, college came to me. I didn't come to college.
Right.
And he just thinks with the history there, and this is my final job, I didn't come here to leave, was one of the money quotes, and see more about who's going to be on the staff. But this is a wild story, and I think certainly should be able to outcoach Dabo. You would think that would happen.
Did you watch that show called, what was it, Patriot, that they put together on one of the streaming devices?
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but it was pro-Kraft and anti-Belichick.
Yeah, so I didn't watch it either, but from what
Patriot players were bothered by
from
it.
what he was saying, they kind of made it without even showcasing Belichick at all.
Yeah.
Because Kraft is so bitter at the guy.
Yes.
Which is just completely bonkers. Mm-hmm. Because, man, if you didn't have that guy as the head coach, you weren't going to win jack squat. I mean, Brady, was good enough to maybe win a couple, but it was the combination there between those two guys.
Well, he went to the playoffs with Mac Jones, which looks incredible now.
I know.
But it didn't end well. But certainly to see this, and now Lombardi, the GM, and
this
Belichick.
is happening, by the way. This is going to be a thing now across college. I'm quite convinced, because Adrian Wojnarowski left ESPN to take a GM job at St. Bonaventure. I've been doing this forever. Do you ever remember hearing about a GM at the college level? I don't. But you need it now because of the NIL, and that's what Lombardi's role is going to be with North Carolina. And that news came down fast and furious yesterday, and VSiN tweeted it out, wrote a story on the website about it as well. And Michael is going to be doing his show for the next couple of weeks, but we obviously wish him nothing but success moving forward. And what a way to potentially write off into the sunset. Like, if this actually works at North Carolina to go out like this with him as a GM and Belichick and others on the coaching staff, you're stunned by it. Top 5 all time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But like how the dominoes fell, Belichick took the job, and now Lombardi is off VSiN, so we're going to miss him here on the network.
Yep. Also, how so many coaches and people in college were reaching out to him about now it's become like the NFL. And he said that today in the press conference. And then it also goes back to, how many coaches welcomed them into their program and kind of maybe showed them some things they didn't know that, my God, maybe he was studying and doing some scouting now that he takes the job. So the win total was 6.5 in some spots. And isn't it funny? They opened with TCU after TCU opened with Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Charlotte, Richmond, at Central Florida against Scott Frost, at Cal, at NC State, Clemson, Stanford, Duke, Virginia, Syracuse, and Wake Forest, the last 2 on the road.
Sounds about 9-3 to me.
So if you get, right, that's what I said. So if you get the band back together, if Patricia's running the defense and McDaniel's running the offense, Kitchens is on the staff, Lombardi the GM, I just think how they're being able to recruit, the huge support with NIL, and they're hungry. I mean, they haven't won an ACC title since 1980. He had to go back. He was talking about Lawrence Taylor today in a press conference.
Right.
Like that's crazy about can Carolina compete with the big boys and get this done? And certainly you got the greatest of all time from an X's and O's standpoint.
So here was Michael Lombardi on his very own show, at least for the next couple of weeks, called Lombardi Line, which is 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific out here, obviously on the West Coast. And he described how this North Carolina job came together.
But this came together because Bill wanted to go back to college. I think if you read the David Halberstam book, Education of a Coach, Halberstam predicted that one day Belichick would go back to college football because he values teaching so much. And I think the landscape of college football has changed dramatically in the sense that it is pay for play. And, you've got to evaluate the players on the roster. You've got to put a dollar sign on the player. And then you've got to be able to motivate and coach within the framework of monetary compensation. So, for me and my relationship with Coach Belichick, once he decided he wanted to do this, and then he asked me if I wanted to do it, then, I thought, why not? This is the perfect time, the perfect setting. And for my wife and I to go back down there and enjoy, college football in a most incredible little town that is going to be a football town in the future.
Well, I hope they crush it.
Yep.
That'd be great if they can challenge the likes of Dabo Swinney and others. Belichick, imagine what that's going to look like when Bill Belichick has to take on Mario Cristobal. Oh, my God. That is the definition of a 16 versus a 1 seed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, you and I did mornings for 7 years until Labor Day of this year. How has it felt not waking up at 1:32 a.m. in the last 3.5 months?
Well, not bad, yeah.
Pretty good? Okay.
According to the crap, mowing the lawn at 6 a.m. and other stuff like that, but sure.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Thursday night football game tonight. Were you done there?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you surprised by this number? Most books have the Niners at 2.5. Like it hit 3, but then every time it hits 3, I think it comes back down to 2.5. Do the Rams win this game tonight?
I can't tell you how many times I've lost when I've laid 2.5 this year in the NFL.
Here's an example. I'll tie it into the NBA.
Yep.
For those people who bet Houston last night, and I heard a lot of people make the case for it. In my head, I'm like, they're a small favorite. You might want to bet a money line. And how that game that happens way more often than I would like.
Yep.
When you're betting these games on short favorites, Yeah.
Take the points with the dog, go money line with if you want the favorite. But this has been a number that's killed me all year. And the dog always seems to cash in spots like this. The other one is the old Chris Andrews line. Take the 6.5, lay the 7.5. The odds makers are telling you something there. I've been wrong all year on the Rams. I can't get a read on them. They were great against the Vikings. They were awesome offensively in what they did, beating the Bills. They've had some bad performances. Certainly how the season started. You didn't think they were serious. The Bears blow them out, and they weren't going to be a contender. McVay's done an awesome job with all the injuries and a bad defense to see that they're in this position. They're plus 150 to win the division. And it's over for the 49ers, especially if they lose this game. They're 10-1 to make the playoffs and 18-1 to win the division. And I point to what happened in the first meeting. There's just no way, no how the Niners should have lost games like this. Up double digits, Shanahan blows it again, missed field goal, and they get beat. So between that loss, blowing the game at home, to Seattle blowing the game at home, to Arizona, that's why they're likely going to be on the outside looking in. You got injuries to deal with. So I think it's still about the Rams. And going back to history, McVay has been great on short rest and getting it done. I'll give you some ATS numbers coming up, but Purdy's on a 1-7 ATS run against teams with a winning record. That's another one that concerns me.
So in that first game, by the way, that was all the way back in week 3. The Niners led 14-0 after the first quarter. That was 24-14 minutes into the fourth quarter. Purdy had 292 and 3 touchdowns. Here are some numbers on Jawan Jennings. In that game, he had 11 for 175 and 3.
Yeah.
So, and I'll detail this here, going back with Jennings. Last week, with Purdy against Chicago, 7 for 90 and 2 touchdowns. With Purdy against Seattle, 10 for 91 and a touchdown. With Purdy versus Tampa Bay, 7 for 93. Those are full games with Brock Purdy and no Brandon Ayuk. Are the Rams going to slow down the 49ers' best wide receiver? His name is Jawan Jennings.
No, but I don't know what happens on the ground. They won't stop the 49er rushing attack, it seems. But Grando says he's going to play. So they go with him over, and how many carries will he get? But they are 22nd DVOA run defense.
We have much more on that game coming up. Plus, win some, lose some. Players can say what they want, but these games are not the same. And I thought Steve Kerr was as good as it gets after they got robbed last night in the NBA Cup.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
Elevate your sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
last night? Wow, winning. Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser! Paulie Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
All right, forget the 8 points. Hawks outright, plus 280. Trae Young was great again, rolling dice at center court as they come out to Vegas and take down the Knicks again.
He wasn't the only one. I thought Jalen Johnson was spectacular. And once Cat went out with that fifth foul, they completely dominated them down low.
Mm-hmm.
The alley-oops wouldn't stop.
Oh, my God, I know. Champions League, Juventus plus 320. Man City loses again. Benfica draw 4-1. Also, win some. J.R. Starkus, the reaction. That's going to be cool. Do that on a regular basis. The mixologist, spirits educator, making drinks. And no more eggnog. Get it out of here. Go to his Instagram and what he made yesterday with the brown sip. That thing was brown slip. Yeah, that thing was awesome. And thanks for the reaction. Brown sugar flip. Sorry, thank you. That thing was phenomenal. Lose some. Hawks, Knicks over 233 up to 238. No good. Not even close there. Couple lose some here. So ESPN on their college football show is going through a tier with the playoffs of contender, dangerous, and then Cinderella. So you get the top teams in contender, no surprise, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State. Dangerous, you have Tennessee, Notre Dame, and Penn State. And then they have Cinderella. And, of course, it's SMU, Boise, Indiana. And they don't have Arizona State. They have the Arizona logo. It's Arizona. What? From the same network when Arizona State played Kansas State. Huge game at the time. And Desmond Howard's like, I thought this was a mistake. Why are we picking this game?
Oh, that's right.
Like, remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, how they thought about the Big 12. They put the wrong.
Now, will the coaching staff file this one away for a couple of weeks from now?
God. Yeah. So we're getting ready. Christmas, 2 weeks away. Got the doubleheader on Netflix in the NFL. Look at who's going to be a part of this on game day. How many people are going to be at the desk? Kay Adams, Melanie Collins, Ian Eagle, Noah Eagle, his son, Burleson. They hired 20 people? It's 2 games. Look at this. Look at this setup. What?
There's that comedian who takes his shirt off all the time. What's his name? Burt Kreischer?
Yes, right.
Yeah, who is one of the unfunniest human beings alive. I have no idea how he has a following, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's plenty right there. I would say.
I thought it was a joke. It's just a doubleheader. It's okay. You're hiring 20 people. Let's just make sure we go off without a hitch here, a glitch. That happened with the Tyson Paul fight. Lose some. The Chiefs are 15-0 in one-score games going back to late December. Nebraska is 4-22 since 2021 in one-to-score games.
They also had that very long stretch over several years where they could not become bowl eligible or pick up their 6th win.
You're right. Ready to elevate your tail game? Try Sewell's, born from a backyard cookout in mason jar of unforgettable flavor. Sewell's has become a Southern favorite, lighting up taste buds from Georgia to the Carolinas. From ribs and wings to a backyard burger, Sewell's takes every bite to the next level. Southern hospitality never tasted so good. Order online. Sewell'sBarbecueSauce.com. Sure, Lombardi's on it now. The Carolinas. Sewell'sBarbecueSauce.com.
So, did you watch the press conference? Well, not the press conference. On the court after the game, quick hit with Trae Young for like 2 to 3 minutes after they beat the Knicks last night. I thought he had a very intriguing comment because he backtracked and he goes, "This is such a big game." Well, he goes, "Well, hold on. They're all big games." No, they're not. Not like last night. Not like the night before. If you watched the 2 NBA Cup games last night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those were like March Madness games. That was surviving at advance. That was one and done. Those players absolutely left their guts out on the court in both those games, and it meant more last night than a regular season basketball game on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It just did.
Yeah.
When you watch the effort out there on the court, I wish every NBA game was like that.
So you want to take unders again Saturday?
Well, I think that might have been the spot.
Or it's tough matchups because it's OKC, but this Rockets team does a great job defensively. And well,
that was a gift. That was the easiest under you're ever going to play in the NBA.
Yeah, I know. 2 top 5 defensive teams, yeah.
So if you missed the end of that game, to me, and I had no action on that game, which we talked about the under. I never bet it. Silly me. So this is just as a fan and as a person who gets upset when the officials blow it and don't do their job the correct way. At the end of the game, there was a scrum, and they kicked this around for half an hour on NBA on TNT last night. And I do agree with everybody. I don't know why Curry shot it so quickly. I have no idea what he was doing there. but they had a 1-point lead. He takes a three. He misses. There's a wild scrum. Peyton gets on the ball, and Van Fleet comes over off the top rope with the forearm shiver, and there's no call because there's a scrum. And then Peyton kicks the ball away, and then, there's like another rugby scrum for the ball, and the referees, this is 80 feet away from the Houston basket, they could not wait to blow the whistle on Golden State for a foul. It was the most absurd thing that you're ever going to see, and I'm glad that Steve Kerr went off last night, and he was speaking. This wasn't just about an incident in an NBA Cup game, in my opinion. This is speaking to every fan of almost every single team sport across the world. He was so pissed off. Here he was after the game.
I've never seen a loose ball foul on a jump ball situation 80 feet from the basket with the game on the line. I've never seen that. I think I saw it in college one time, 30 years ago. Never seen it in the NBA. That is, unconscionable. I don't even understand what just happened. Loose ball, diving on the floor, 80 feet from the basket, and you're going to give a guy 2 free throws to decide the game when people are scrambling for the ball. Just give them a timeout. Give them a timeout and let the players decide the game. That's how you officiate, especially because the game was a complete wrestling match. They didn't call anything. Steph Curry got hit on the elbow, plain as day, on a jump shot, just clubbed right on there, no call. So you've established you're just not going to call anything throughout the game. It's a physical game. We're going to call a loose ball foul on a jump ball situation with guys diving on the floor with the game on the line. This is a billion-dollar industry. You got people's jobs on the line. I am stunned. I am stunned. I give the Rockets credit. They battled back. They played great defense all night. But I feel for our guys. Our guys battled back, played their asses off, and deserved to win that game, or at least have a chance for one stop at the end to finish the game. And that was taken from us by a call that I don't think an elementary school referee would have made, because that guy would have had feel.
He summed it up.
Yeah, feel.
He just said everything.
Yeah.
The whole thing was a wrestling match. He's spot on. They were banging and bruising the entire time. They were beating the piss out of each other.
The Curry play, yeah.
Of course.
Right on the elbow he gets hit, taking a shot. But yeah.
And they cut away from that. They came back. He's still going. And he goes, our guys wanted to play in Vegas. We wanted to make it. This is a big deal. And that's the call that you're going to make. Loved it.
Yep.
So think of any, I keep going back to the Rams Saints playoff game handful of years ago when they just completely whiffed the pat. That cost the Saints. That's the game. Game's over with. Saints were going to go to the Super Bowl. Nope. And as he said, let the players decide the game. You're not the story. And yet you've been telling us what kind of story you're going to, call out there for 2.5 hours, and now you change your mind. You got to be consistent. You can't let them beat each other up for 2.5 hours, and at the very end, it's ticky-tack like that.
Yeah. That's rule number 1. Don't decide the game. Stay out of the way. And there's too much of this that goes on in the NFL. As well, and it infuriates you as fans. And it was great what he said at the end about feel. You'd have feel, no feel. You're deciding the game. Billy Kennedy, horrible.
I think the Hawks beat the Bucks.
Good rant. Pride, yes, they're hot. Some big wins during this streak. So they're playing great ball.
They got some really good players on that team. Now Trae Young at the end of the game lost his mind. Some of those shots, dude. Run some more clock. Don't take a 29-footer. Don't beg. And then he's shooting and he's bricking these shots when they're up by 9, and he's running around, give me the ball. And the teammates are like, what? I'm not going to pass you the ball back. You don't know how to close this game. You're chucking it from half court. Get out of here.
Yeah. He acts like he has 6 championships. He's made 1 conference final.
Yeah.
What he's done. Couldn't guard you either. But in any event, fired up that they're out here in Las Vegas and should be a good semifinal.
Yeah. I broke down why I like Jennings tonight. Does Kittle go off in this game too?
I think Kittle goes out. There's a boost available at Caesars. Kittle and Cup, I think. 60 yards, both plus 250 with a good boost. But, you'd think he's a big part of this offense too and gets involved. And I would take how bad has Debo been? This is not getting enough. The guy's played well in 2 games the whole season.
Pretty much.
Joe Fortenbaugh made a good case of Purdy rushing yards under when Trent Williams doesn't play. So I think 20.5 is too high, and he's gone under that. several times, and I think 4 of 5 when Williams has been out as well. So the McVay stuff I mentioned earlier, 13-4-1 ATS on short rest, including an 8-1 ATS run.
Wow.
And he's been awesome in December games, 27-13 ATS. So he thrives in this spot, even though it was a 3-10 run against Shanahan. But now he's covered a couple in a row.
Yeah. Rams are solid against tight ends, but these numbers when Purdy is starting to get a knees healthy, that Kittle puts up every week, I'll detail that coming up here in a little bit. It's lights out. Every week he delivers. Up next, so does this guy, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian on the program. You have to love this time of year. A running back nobody heard of until last week could be a fantasy winner. He'll explain next.
They're off.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Hardcore football here, next two segments. He's one of the best. Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian joins the program here on the Progressive Guest Line. GuillotineLeagues.com is the website. The podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly. Charge, good afternoon. You've been doing this for 3+ decades at this point. Do you like the fact that fantasy championships can be determined by a player that nobody knew his name a week ago? Sincere McCormick, a running back for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, no, I do love it. And, we have great tales of fantasy championships won by guys that came on at the end. Like Ron Dane one year went berserk, like 2006, I think. And if we go back, there was that white receiver from the Titans one year went crazy. What was
Drew Bennett?
Drew Bennett.
Thank you. Yes, Drew Bennett.
And Billy Volek.
Yeah.
Yes. The Billy Volek Drew Bennett connection won people fantasy championships. What I love about it is, and Sincere McCormick's in this case, you have to stay on your toes, and you got to never stop being open to the idea that your team can get better with people that you didn't plan on. And Sincere McCormick's going to be a case of this. Look what Antonio Pierce did in the month of December last year to Zamir White, gave him a long look as a workhorse back. And White ended up looking pretty good and gave us bad intel for this year where he's been horrible, and 2.2 yards per carry. But we're going to get this out of Sincere McCormick now. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. He looks legitimately pretty good. And this is a nice opportunity this week against Atlanta, a team reeking with the stench of defeat right now. I mean, Atlanta looks bad, and they're getting crushed on. They had been a really good run defense over the past 6 weeks. They're giving up almost 5 yards per carry. So Sincere McCormick's somebody you could start. And as a side note on Sincere McCormick, I'm going to give you some other people with adjectives for first names, and you tell me what comes to mind. You ready?
Give me a couple.
Sterling Sharp.
Great player, yeah.
Yeah. Great player.
Yeah, yeah.
Possible Hall of Famer. He hasn't made it.
He should be.
Yes.
That's really close, I think. I think it's very close. All right, how about this? Happy Gilmore.
Well, fictional now?
Yeah, he's fictional.
Good movie. I enjoyed it.
By the way, that swing works when you try it, too. That's the most underrated part that people forget about.
Yeah?
Go out there and try it. It 100% works.
Wow.
You will. It's a missile when it leaves the club.
I've seen somebody pull it off one time, and it was a missile.
Yeah. Excellent. Yep. Okay. So,
all right. I'm going to give you one more. Sonny Hostin, the co-host on The View. Are you big fans?
No.
A lot of you watch a lot of The View?
Never heard of the person. Have no idea.
No.
I
didn't know her either.
All
right. But Sincere McCormick's near the top of the adjectives for first names list, as far as I'm concerned.
The birthday paradox was much better. That was awesome last week. So what do we do now? I don't know. Was he available or can we pick him up? Adam Thielen's been awesome. And he's another guy that could decide this and how big he was against the Eagles. And if he can produce again, what do you make of Thielen?
Yeah, Thielen. I mean, he's been great. Fantastic. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Bryce Young as like a whole different quarterback now, playing with poise and intelligence. And, Young's situation reminds me a little bit of Trevor Lawrence, who lost his rookie season under Urban Meyer and then was much better in year two. Dave Canales, not going to win Coach of the Year, but should be, he should be others getting votes. Should be Dave Canales in the Coach of the Year. Thielen. 3 games back from the hamstring injury that sidelined him for half a season. First week back, he got eased in. Second week, 99 yards and a touchdown, 2 amazing catches. One was a touchdown catch they did not call, and review missed it as well. He made 2 of the 10 best catches of the year by the same guy in the same game, Adam Thielen, 2 weeks ago. Then last week, 9 catches, 102 yards. Thielen's on fire. This whole passing offense goes right through him. Here comes Dallas. The way Dallas is getting beat through the air is opposing number 1 receivers. Jamar Chase went berserk last week. He's awesome, obviously, but 14 catches, 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin, the week before that, 102 yards and 1. A.J. Brown, 109 yards the week before that. So this is a nice opportunity for Adam Thielen. I think he stays hot here. He's my wide receiver 18, making him absolutely fantasy startable in this matchup.
Think about that. Thielen, wide receiver 18. You probably didn't think about he was ever going to be that high going back a couple of weeks ago. What about his teammate? Again, another way to really defeat this Dallas Cowboys defense. We saw it on Monday night. Chase Brown, really good game. Running backs have just gashed this team. Will that be a thing with Chuba Hubbard?
Oh, God, it is. And now we're going to do this as a prop bet, my first prop bet of the show today. Over the 98.5 total yards for Chuba Hubbard. And I like it better than just the straight rushing prop. Here's what's going on. Jonathan Brooks is out for the year. Miles Sanders is on IR. Fourth-string running back Raheem Blackshear, questionable after being hospitalized with a blunt force contusion to his chest last week. Chuba Hubbard might get literally 100% of the running back workload in this game. And over the past month, Hubbard was already averaging 21 carries and 4 targets per game. That's 25 touches. And on 25 touches, and by the way, that was with Jonathan Brooks getting eased back in. 25 touches per game makes it pretty easy to get to 99 yards, which we need to get for the total to go over on this one. So if Hubbard's going to get 25 touches, I looked at Dallas. Here's what Dallas is giving up to runners who top 16 touches, which is just a lock for Hubbard here. Again, running backs getting 16 touches against Dallas, averaging 104 rushing yards, 51 receiving yards. That's 155 yards. And again, that's on 16 touches. Hubbard's averaging 25 touches over the past month. And I don't see that number going down here with everybody else hurt. So over the 98.5 total yards. And if you're feeling a little more daring, the Hubbard rushing and receiving yardage, you could peg that at over 150 yards at a plus 390 on DraftKings. So that might be a fun angle. And that's what Dallas is giving up to runners that top 16 touches.
Yeah, I like it. I'm definitely going to be on Hubbard this week. Talk me into his counterpart in this game, Rico Dowdle.
All right, so Dowdle, his line is 82 rushing yards. I'm going over here as well against Carolina. The Panthers have gotten better everywhere, as we just discussed, except their run defense.
Mm-hmm.
On the season, the Panthers allow the most rushing yards to opposing runners. I always like to take out the quarterback rushing out of these. A lot of times you'll hear people talk about, a team that's giving up, a certain amount of rushing yards, but then they played Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and it skewed everything. Panthers allow the most rushing yards to opposing running backs, 139 per game, 139. And over the past 5 games, it's even worse. Carolina's giving up 155 rushing yards to opposing runners and a horrific 5.6 yards per carry. So here comes Rico Dowdle into this situation, getting almost all the Dallas workload. He's seen an increasing percentage of the Cowboys' runs in 5 straight games, all the way up to 72% of the rushing attempts last week. The last 3 games for Rico Dowdle, 19 carries, 22 carries, and 18 carries. He's a true workhorse back. And it's not like Mike McCarthy's going to go, oh, hey, Cooper Rush, go throw your arm out of socket, go throw 45 passes. That ain't happening. Not with Cooper Rush. So you can feel really good that Dowdle's going to get the work here. And it turns out Dowdle isn't that bad since week 6. He's averaging 5.2 yards per carry. He's been over this line of 82.5 rushing yards 3 straight games. So, and by the way, the Panthers have allowed the opponent's top runner to go over this line in 4 of the last 5 games. So I love Rico Dowdle over 82.5 rushing yards. It's a big number for Rico Dowdle, but everything lines up here.
Ask you about Monday Night Football in a second. Sign up our holiday special, VSiN Pro Access. Everything we do through May 1st, $79. Unlimited access, best bets, every host, every guest, the DraftKings and Circa betting splits, and the video access nonstop 24/7. VSiN.com/subscribe. And you get the college football playoff guide today. VSiN.com/subscribe. How about Monday night? With this Vikings offense and what Addison has done, and it seems seemingly a Bears team that just laid down and got embarrassed. What do you make of what the Vikings can do through the air?
Yeah, that Addison thing is pretty remarkable. And, opponents have been playing to take away Justin Jefferson, which is fine, and that worked for a while. But the problem is now in his sophomore season, Jordan Addison's turned out to be pretty good. And it's over the last 5 games, he's the 4th highest scoring fantasy wide receiver. And it turns out, so Addison is looking at single coverage all the time. He's beating it. And then the other part of it is Sam Darnold is just absolutely dealing right now, as you know, and it's on the downfield stuff, which is great for fantasy. We love quarterbacks who can throw downfield, and he's by virtually every metric the best downfield passer in the league right now. The Vikings faced Chicago just 3 weeks ago. 57-point overtime thriller. And Addison, 8 catches, 162 yards, and a touchdown in that game. So still like him here in the rematch. I don't see much that has changed. You can't stop all the Vikings' weapons. Quickly then on TJ Hawkinson, what does he do? Well, I think Hawkinson's sitting on a really nice game here. And the line here, let's take the over 38.5. I thought the number was going to be closer to 50 yards. When these teams met 3 weeks ago, the Vikings identified Chicago linebacker TJ Edwards, and they threw at him all game, and he gave up 133 yards in his coverage for a linebacker. And Hawkinson went for 114 yards against Chicago. And since the Vikings game, the Bears are just getting demolished by tight ends. Sam Laporta scored twice. George Kittle rocked them for 151 last week. So I like the over on Hawkinson here, 38.5 yards. Very good. Stay tuned. Charge has many strong opinions on tonight's huge game, Niners-Rams. Find out what they are next.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We continue here with Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian. You can follow him on X at Paul Charchian. His podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly, and he is on the progressive guest line. Okay, what do you think happens tonight with the 49ers backfield? I think Garando is going to play. What does it all mean to you?
Yeah, so, okay, this is really a tricky, and I wouldn't bet it just because too much risk with the foot. From a fantasy standpoint, if you're an underdog, then I would start Garando, hope he makes it through a full game against the middle-of-the-pack Rams run defense, and he's got massive upside like we saw last week, 120 total yards and 2 touchdowns. And Garando can be a game changer for you, but also, dude who's constantly hurt in college, constantly. Wisconsin, then Louisville, always getting hurt. He made it not even one full game as the 49ers starter before he got hurt here. So there's just a lot of risk. If you're an underdog, you start him. If you're not, if you're a favorite, then I don't think you start Garando, and I think you find a safer angle somewhere. And I'm going to give you, well, let's pivot. My sneaky angle on the running game here is Deebo Samuel over 15.5 rushing yards. I think this is a playable angle. I'll frame it up for you. He's coming off a 5-carry game. Deebo is his highest carry game since the opener was last week. And I looked to see, was it all after Isaac Garando got hurt? And the answer is no. 3 of his 5 carries came before Garando got hurt. So they were already mixing Samuel in when Garando was healthy. Then Garando doesn't practice all week, and he's got this foot injury that, of course, and this thing could end up playing out a few different ways where Deebo plays a substantial role at running back. If Garando does get hurt, obviously, then it's, then the over is going to be a lock for Deebo, who get a ton of work at that point. But even if Garando plays, and even if he gets just 4 rushes, Deebo does, at 4 yards per carry, he's at 16 yards. That's all I need for the over, is 16 freaking rushing yards. We're going to get that. Your 5th stringer is Patrick Taylor, and he's a special teamer, and I don't think he's really an obstacle for Samuel to hit the over here. And I looked this up for you guys. The Rams have seen 12 wide receiver rushes against them this year. The average gain on wide receiver rushes against the Rams is the 3rd highest in the league at 8.1 yards.
Okay.
At 8.1 yards per carry against the Rams, I only need 2 Deebo Samuel rushes to hit the over. So we're over 15.5 rushing yards for Deebo Samuel.
Very good.
That's a great nugget. By the way, did that research suck?
I found a spot where I was able to get it easier than I thought it was, but I don't think I'd ever looked for it before in my entire life. So I'm like, ooh, I wonder if I can turn this up. Wide receiver runs against the defense is pretty weird.
That's really good, though.
I'm glad we got it.
Yeah.
What do we do now with Puka and Kupp? And these Puka numbers are ridiculous. 33 for 458 and 3 touchdowns in the last 4 games, coming off 14 targets for $162.
It's staggering. And my biggest worry, Paulie, is after his 17-touch game, remember he had 5 carries last week too, right?
Yes.
Do they just intentionally dial it back some on the usage? Because you saw Nakua getting banged up in that game and limping around, and like, oh geez, this might be it. Now they need Nakua. This game is pivotal for both of these teams, which I love. This game's gonna be great tonight. So I know they don't want to just dial him back too far, but if they dial him back some, and Cooper Kupp's got a nice matchup. He running out of the slot. The 49ers do have a good slot cornerback, Deommodore Lenoir, but good slot players almost always get paid against the Niners. We saw Jackson Smith and Jigba a few weeks ago with 10 catches and 110 yards, running mostly from the slot. CeeDee Lamb, 13 catches, 146 yards and 2 scores, running largely from the slot. So we do see slot players of Cooper Kupp's ilk, good players, beat the 49ers, and it makes me wonder if they're going to dial back Puka a little bit here in this game just to take some of the wear and tear off him after that 17-toucher last week.
All right, let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian, and he is on the progressive guest line. How big of a game are we talking about for Rams running back Kyren Williams tonight against this 49ers defense?
You got to be careful in this one. There's some angles I like. The Niners are this weird run defense. They don't give up a lot of yards. They don't give up a lot of yards per carry, but they're giving up a ton of touchdowns. Over the past 8 games, Niners only giving up 3.9 yards per carry. That's very good. Over the same 8 games, they've given up 11 rushing touchdowns. That's most in the league. And Williams is an absolute workhorse at the goal line. Kyron Williams has had 17 carries from inside the 5. He's scored on 17, and by the way, 17's a lot. So let me just stop right there. He's had 17 carries from inside the 5-yard line, and he's scored on 10 of the 17. That is a very good conversion rate. You're looking for roughly 50% or better. Williams sitting well above that. So if you're thinking about betting a Williams touchdown, it's only minus 160 for the touchdown, which I don't love. You could try plus 370 to score twice for Kyron Williams, which is not out of the range of possibility given all the touchdowns that the Niners have given up.
All right, so I'm going back and forth, by the way, because Purdy has been putting up good numbers, and, he missed a couple of games there when he was hurt. I can't decide, which player is going to go off in the 49ers passing attack tonight, though, right? Because the numbers with a healthy Brock Purdy, and since Brandon Ayuk went out, Juwan Jennings has been fantastic. He's their best wide receiver. Also, you cannot ignore what George Kittle has done pretty much full season to date with a healthy Brock Purdy. So how do you think they attack the Rams defense tonight?
Well, Purdy can support both of those guys. Okay. And I like those two a lot. And, Deebo Samuel, we talked about the rushing over. As a receiver, he's almost a non-factor in this offense. I think he's been below 30 yards in 4 straight games, which is ridiculous for him. Juwan Jennings is so good. And man, did the 49ers mess up with that extension that they gave to Brandon Ayuk. And it seems obvious now, but Jennings is a better player than Ayuk, and they could have saved a lot of money by just extending him. But the reason I like Jennings, they've moved him since the Ayuk injury. They've moved Jennings to running predominantly from the slot. That puts him up against slot cornerback Quentin Lake for the Rams. He's the weakest of their cornerbacks. He's given up touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 games. Last week, they threw at him 10 times. 7 of those were caught for 105 yards. This was Buffalo last week. So there's a nice opportunity for Jennings here. I like Jennings a lot in tonight's game.
All right. So you like him more than Kittle is what you're thinking?
Well, I like him. I like them both. I mean, I think I can defend both of these guys, and I think Purdy can feed 2 players because he's good enough to do that.
Okay. How many teams do you have on the list of overall squads that can win the Super Bowl? Paulie and I talked about this the other day. He had 9.
NFC.
I had about 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
I've got so Philly in the NFC. Philly's in, obviously. They're the best. They're the best team in football until Detroit's defensive players come to form and come back from injury. By the way, 13 players on IR, as you know, for Detroit. By my count, only 3 likely to be back from the playoffs. So that doesn't necessarily make a huge solve for them. But Philly's in, Detroit's in. Your bubble NFC teams are the Vikings and the Rams, who could just outscore everybody. Green Bay probably in that mix. I'll give them half. So that's 4.5 out of the NFC. AFC, simpler. Buffalo, Baltimore. I don't think Kansas City counts. I don't care that they're 12-1. Their net points are plus 56. The 7-win Bucks are plus 54. That they have fewer, their point differential's fewer than the 8-win Denver Broncos and the 8-win San Diego Chargers. I don't see it. Now, at this time last year, I know we were saying a lot of the same stuff about Kansas City, that they didn't always look good and they were finding a way and they could just flip the switch. This team doesn't feel like a flip the switch kind of team to me. I see struggles here that we were not getting before, especially offensively, where it really hasn't come together for the Chiefs. So I'm looking at 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. 6.5 teams.
That's it.
I'm way. Yeah, I'm more. You guys are a little more scattershot on this than I am.
Well, so you're telling no Steelers? You're not buying in?
Well, okay. Steelers defense is good enough for them to win 3 straight games, get to the Super Bowl for sure. Could work that way. I can't see that offense generating enough. Can you see that passing offense? George Pickens, Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Can you see them doing enough to get there? I can't convince myself.
All right.
I'm not quite there.
Fair enough.
I like the Steelers.
All right.
Not there.
Thank you. Great insight and tidbits.
Thanks, guys.
You're the man.
We'll talk to you next week.
You got
Awesome,
it, buddy.
George.
Great job. College football playoff just around the corner. No better way to prepare than when VSiN's college football playoff betting guide. Available now. Every matchup preview. Comprehensive overview with bookmaker insights. Team capsules for the top squads with buys. The brackets and best bets from host and experts. Power ratings from Steve Makinen. And the bonus, Every bowl game pick from Mackin and Brent Musburger. Sign up now, holiday special. Get your copy of the guide plus full VSiN Pro access. Everything we do through May 1st, $79. $79. Score big. Grab this deal. Tell your friends. Great gift. VSiN.com/subscribe.
All right. Love the weekly appearance there by Paul Charchian. Again, on X at Paul Charchian. Podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly. Also love the weekly appearances by our next guest, Steve Wist. The Meat Man's going to join the program. We'll get his best bets in soccer for the weekend coming up next here on VSiN.
And we're out.
Okay, give me 1 sec. I need to load funds into my gaming app.